Good morning, Keith Tebow. Thank you for joining us this morning. Time to get an update on what's happening in Washington, D.C. and how it impacts Fall River. I'm pleased to be joined by one of two congressmen that happens to serve the city of Fall River, 4th Congressional District Congressman, Democrat Jake Auchincloss. Congressman, how are you? Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me back on. It's good to be here.
I was joking with you when you were on, I believe it was like your second week in office. I was wondering, how you're getting along in terms of finding things. You're finding your way now after 2 months?
Finding my way around after 2 months. It's been an intense orientation. We had the insurrection, impeachment, inauguration, and then launched right into the American Rescue Plan. But we are getting to work. We are going to get relief to the constituents of the Massachusetts 4th and to Fall River. Shots in arms, kids back to school, people back to work.
So let's talk about that. You were one of the Democrats, 219 voted in favor of the rescue plan that passed late last week. Talk about how this will specifically impact cities like Fall River, probably, one of the many blue collar cities in your district, and how it will impact the people here.
Absolutely. And just big picture, this bill really does three things. First, it ensures that we win the race between vaccinations and variants. We need to be vaccinating not just the United States, but indeed the world, to prevent new variants from emerging that could become the next pandemic, so that we can get this pandemic behind us and get back to normal. So this bill has significant money for vaccinations supply and distribution. That's number one. Number two, it provides direct relief to those who are hurting right now: families, businesses, local governments. And three, it lays the foundation for a strong and equitable recovery to make sure that we are coming roaring back into 2021 and into 2022. For Fall River, in particular, this bill has a number of good elements that I, in fact, advocated for with leadership. One is relief for those who are struggling to pay water or energy bills for their homes, and relief for those who are struggling to make rental or mortgage payments. Two, expanded unemployment benefits, child tax credit, as well as $1,400 checks for most residents of Fall River. So we're going to provide directed, targeted relief right now in the depths of this crisis for those who are hurting.
And there's also some money available for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and cities like Fall River that have seen some revenue declines and have had their budget strained. For the city of Fall River, we've seen, I believe it was reported in the local paper, that the city may receive upwards of $50 million to help in that effort. And that also goes a long way in helping the city government and the city deal with this as well, right?
Absolutely. And I've been staying in contact with Mayor Coogan, with Senator Rodericks, with State Representative Carol Fiola about these issues, because local budgets tend to be lagging indicators of economic recession. So we know that we need to be providing funding to cities like Fall River, not just to meet immediate civil service needs, but also to provide public safety, public education, infrastructure needs for the next year or two. And this bill provides significant funding for services, for infrastructure, for personnel.
Now, in terms of that money, is there a specification in terms of a deadline and when the money can be used? I know that the original CARES Act money, that money was extended for cities. The one in December that schools are getting part of, that money has been extended. Do we know the deadline and when cities can use up this money?
No deadline. And this was a major focus of effort. Something I spoke about with Mayor Coogan, in fact, is that we really need to decentralize a lot of the decision making about how to spend this money. Mayors, state representatives, governors, they tend to know best the acute needs, the long-term needs of their constituents, more than Washington, D.C. will. So we want to decentralize some of the decision making around this package. And I've got great confidence that Mayor Coogan is going to direct this funding to the hardest hit communities within Fall River and to the highest return investments.
Now, are there any restrictions with these funds in terms of what it could be spent on? The original CARES Act money had to go toward COVID-19 relief.
It's pretty elastic. So it is, I don't have the exact wording in front of me, but it's basically COVID related needs as well as adjacent needs. And my office is going to be working with select boards, town managers, and mayors about how do we stretch as much latitude as possible around that? Because the way I view it is that this is not just a COVID relief bill for direct relief. It is also about how we are building back stronger. And I want to allow cities and towns to use these funds as we recover. And that means giving more latitude to city councils and mayors for investing these funds, because we know that there's need, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's personnel, whether it's programming, whether it's school upgrades. I want to help these local officials direct these funds to the highest and best needs.
The bill now, of course, moves to the Senate, and we'll see what works out there. But it looks like one of the things that will not make it when the bill is finalized is the call for a $15 federal minimum wage. How do you see that moving forward? Is that something that maybe President Biden will be putting forth Congress as a standalone measure soon after this is passed?
I expect that the $15 minimum wage will be a standalone bill. I don't think that bill is not going to be included in the ARP, but it's also not going anywhere. It's going to come circling back around, and I'll be working to build a coalition in support. I'll say that we can't wait for that bill, though, to be talking about getting people back to good paying jobs. We know that there are growth industries in southeastern Massachusetts that can come roaring back out of this recession. Life sciences manufacturing is a special focus of mine. There is increasing urgency about domesticating our life sciences supply chains. The vaccine manufacturers, the storage and distribution producers, but also medical masks, gowns. There are companies in Fall River doing this. There are companies in southeastern Mass doing this. And this is going to be a growth industry for years to come. These jobs pay well. And ahead of these infrastructure and appropriations packages in Congress, I'm going to be advocating for jobs in this industry.
I know we spoke last time. You're on the infrastructure committee, and I know that's another big project on President Biden's list, investing more in infrastructure, transportation, and the like. Have you seen anything yet from him, and how excited are you to be part of the process of molding how this will come about and how it could impact cities like Fall River?
There's going to be a number of elements of an infrastructure package. I'll pull out two. One is going to be the FAST Act, the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Infrastructure Act. This is about addressing the backlog that we have for fixing bridges, fixing highways, fixing roads, and investing in transit. And the benefits to Fall River are tremendous here, not just South Coast Rail and continuing to fund that, but also just putting people to work in good paying jobs in fixing our really decrepit civil engineering infrastructure in this country. So I'm excited about that package. And then there's also going to be a water package that we're working on. Combined sewer overflow issues have been a long-term challenge for Fall River, and I'll certainly be working with state and local officials to help provide relief on that front as well.
And also moving forward, one of the things that President Biden had mentioned was the need for unity and bipartisanship. A lot changed prior to the election, and of course on January 6th. Are you gaining a sense that there's more willingness to be bipartisan, or does it still appear to you, even though you've only been there for a couple of months, that things still seem to be very fractured in terms of the partisanship that we've seen in Washington for many years?
Well, I mean, there's certainly partisanship here. I don't think that's going to be a secret to anybody. I'm sent to Congress to work with people with whom I disagree to get things done for my constituents. That is the expectation. So I am building relationships on my side of the aisle. I'm building relationships on the other side of the aisle to make progress on big and small ticket items that I think can help a district, that can create jobs, that can invest in infrastructure, because that's a focus for me. Having said that, there is a stark line for me between those Republicans who are here as a serious partner in governance and those Republicans who are giving a standing ovation to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who are voting to decertify election results, who are peddling in conspiracy theories and sedition. Those Republicans are going outside the guardrails of democracy, and the GOP really needs to fix itself and resolve whether it's going to be the party of Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, or whether it's going to be the party of people like Charlie Baker or Mitt Romney or others who are actually really trying to govern. And I'm willing to work with people on the other side of the aisle on issues that affect my constituents and advance their priorities, but I'm not willing to undermine the values of my constituents or their district or this district when it comes to basic constitutional norms.
One final thing I want to bring up with you. This week you held a town hall on Facebook, a Facebook Live event where you engaged constituents to provide some questions to you about things that have been happening in Washington. Is this something you want to continue to do, and how effective do you think this will be in terms of, especially we're still dealing with COVID, interacting with your constituents on a regular basis?
It's vital. I grew up in politics as a city councilor, first got elected knocking doors in Newton, Massachusetts, held monthly office hours, wrote a monthly email to my constituents, got that feedback. You just can't be an elected official without having a constant dialogue with the people you represent, or at least I don't know how you would do that. And so we are going to talk to people wherever they're at. That means teletown halls like we've done already, where we call out to landlines and invite people on to ask me questions. That means Facebook Lives. That means using new apps like Clubhouse even, and doing audio room conversations. Wherever my constituents are at, I'm going to be there too and trying to have a conversation.
And we're glad to help with you doing that as well, with these little mini interviews that we'll do from time to time. So Congressman Jake Auchincloss, I appreciate your time, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.
Take care.
All right. And thank you for joining us today here in FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great day.